Hey everybody, welcome back to the Perfect Portfolio channel. And I gotta say, I'm super excited about our guest today. I gotta say, I've been in finances for 20 years, and I've probably been so excited to interview this guy. People know I'm a huge fan of M1 Finances, and today we have the founder of the my favorite financial application, which is M1 Finance today. So, Brian, we're very excited to have you here and just to interview today. So maybe just we'd love to hear just about you as a person. You were born, and then what happened next.
Yeah, well, appreciate you inviting me. Equally excited to be here. Truthfully, yeah, probably the most interesting thing about me by far is started M1 Finance, and I think the that really did start from a personal penchant for finance and investing at a young age. That was fortunate to
Yep.
be introduced to that, and just you pick up a guitar from a young age, you probably develop some natural fluency or a language from a young age. You may actual have fluency with that. And for me, I just geeked out on financial topics and sort of consumed any piece of information that I possibly could. So that's been sort of a story arc throughout my life. Born East Coast, bounced around a lot, but then most of the time in a Chicago suburb. Went out west for school, so I was in California for school and a handful of years after. Came back to Chicago to start the company. Been at it about 9 years, and yeah, it's just been a roller coaster, mostly on the upswing, but have had some drops here and there that provide both thrills and excitement and some fear. But overall, it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess we have some things in common. Also an East Coaster, but I'm just across the border in Canada, as where I was from. And then I also spent 24 years in California. So we definitely have, and then now I'm back on the East Coast. I just got out of California. I was like, well, this is cool. But anyways, I'm happy to be in Tennessee. But so did you kind of, I grew up, my dad was a bricklayer. We grew up, the only financial advice that I got was, we didn't have any money, so my dad was like, "You'll never get rich working for somebody else." I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll be an entrepreneur." So, did you grow up around financial education? Was it talked about in your family? Was grandpa an investor or something like that? We just loved it. Where did you how what did your financial education look like?
Yeah, I was fortunate to be introduced at quite the young age, and so
Cool.
both of my parents were corporate America, and in the executive path. My mom sort of in the just traditional executive role, and my dad more on the finance side. And then had a interesting thing that they both retired when I was 8 years old, and so they came
What?
from very modest means, were successful, and then said
Cool.
we'd rather spend time with kids and have achieved what we wanted to in our careers. And so I
Yeah.
went from 0 to 8, these two high-powered parents that were traveling 4+ days a week, truthfully probably primarily raised from a nanny, to then having them at home. Just I used to joke like my bedtime stories weren't fairy tales, they were business case studies. And so they both served on corporate boards, and it would be what they're talking about. And
Right.
so I had sort of general business education from my mom, and then my dad was really just managed his own money, finance guy, and so got the numbers from him. So it really, and then it happened to coincide with a early like elementary school project on the stock market where we had
Okay.
to learn a little bit about it, present on a various company. And my parents said at the time, like, if this interests you at all, we had sort of this like side contest in the project where you got a fake $100,000 portfolio and there's a contest
Yep.
at the end.
Yep.
And parents sort of said, at the same time, if this interests you, let's do it with real money, real brokerage account. It was TD Ameritrade at the time.
Yeah.
And the idea of intellectual puzzle of trying to figure out what something's worth, placing a high conviction bet on it. If you're right, you make money. If you're wrong, you lose money. Like it just like checked every box of, I was like a curious little kid with, probably too obsessed with money. And so it just scratched that itch, got very into it. And then that was sort of the foray of diving full in and, getting education from both my parents and then just consuming any piece of content or book that I possibly could on the subject.
Very cool. Very cool. Two different paths completely. Like, I mean, my mom called me Money Mark. I was like, how do I make money? I don't know. Just, I didn't have any. I was like, I want to make money. So I was like, very cool. Very cool. So, any cool stories about how M1 like started? Was it like you and some friends were sitting at a bar and you put something on a napkin, or was it like was you were in the garage, you know, like let's do a startup, or any cool stories about how first M1 came to fruition?
Yeah, so I would say the idea developed over time. It wasn't this like, wake up in a
Right.
sweat and hey,
Okay.
here it's all pieced together. I did undergrad at Stanford University, and so you're just belly of the beast
Yeah.
of Silicon Valley. What's actually funny is while I was there, I wanted nothing to do with startups. I truthfully thought like a lot of them were pretentious. They all talked about how they were going to take over the world, and saw a
Oh
lot of
my
them
God.
fail. And was sort of handful of them do, but the failure rate is quite high, and it sort of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I thought I was going to do one of two paths: either corporate America, like my parents, and do that, or go into just pure investing full time, do equity
Okay.
research or something like that, do what
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing on my own personal time.
Yeah.
The truth, I like started down that path. So I went to a management consulting firm, and I just became so disillusioned with the work that I was doing that, I became an Excel jockey, a PowerPoint jockey. It was, and, we would complete a project and then claim, we just saved this company $500 million. And I'm like, I don't know. I just felt like I created a PowerPoint deck, like all the work's in front of them
Right.
to go
Yeah.
do it. And so,
Yeah.
it was really, that was the genesis for, I want to actually go off on my own and take a big swing, and had this like personal finance stuff in the background. I would say the like maybe more interesting story of the actually flipping the switch and going was at Stanford. I was very good friends with Evan Spiegel, who ultimately started Snapchat or Snap.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay, cool.
yeah, and so like saw something from a junior year project that got no traction and looked like it was going to get shut down to world's youngest billionaire, creating cultural icon and all the success that comes with that. And was talking him through the idea, and I'd say like twofold. He one super jazzed about the concept and the idea, and then two just chastising me for not going out and pursuing something bigger and taking a bigger swing. And so,
Right.
when you have good friends who are successful, who are both excited about what you're doing and encouraging you to, take the leap, that was the kick in the butt that I needed to ultimately leave the job and say, I'd rather, it got to the place where I'd sort of rather start M1, even with the chance that it failed. I'd be like happier doing that than, taking a more conservative path of, just getting promoted every 2 years for the rest of my life. So that
Yeah.
was the genesis for starting M1.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was when I was younger. My dad was laying bricks, and he said, "Mark, do you want to be a bricklayer?" I said, "No." He said, "Why?" I said, "Then I'll become a bricklayer." I was like, so I knew I was in finance. I knew I would get into finance someday, somehow, and it just took a long time to get here. But yeah, I was actually, if you know my story, I was a financial advisor, like a traditional advisor, and I was very unhappy because I saw these innovative ideas and things like that. And I wanted to promote those, but I just couldn't do it as a financial advisor. So, but then I wrote books, wrote 3 books, and here we are today. It was, it was the coronavirus crash, and I saw opportunities to make money, sort of what's going on right now. But yeah, it was, and then it was just creating this concept called how do we build the perfect portfolio, and then we just stumbled across the M1, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So my favorite feature of M1 is the borrow button. I love borrow. I mean, we teach the strategy buy, borrow, die. Obviously, if you're going to borrow, it helps to have a borrow button. Who said, when did you go? Who said, whoa, we should have had a borrow button? Because you guys innovated, you guys disrupted with the borrow button, my favorite feature. How did that come about? It was,
Yeah. So, M1 started was really, if I could create a personal finance platform from scratch,
yeah,
this is what it would look like. And,
yeah,
I had started early on Ameritrade. I moved over to Options House and then used Interactive Brokers was sort of my progression. And
yep,
a lot of it was, I used the tools, but I would manage everything in Excel. And even the sort of like dynamic rebalancing of the pie was just a
yeah,
very complicated Excel spreadsheet of, I wanted percentage allocation. I wanted to maintain it. I was making long-term investment decisions, but had incremental cash. And so, that was the pie structure, was just, sort of implementing that. The other thing is, I, from a, I used brokerage margin pretty extensively
okay,
in sort of two fashions. Was one, at the time, Fed funds was zero. I used Options House and then Interactive, which had rates between, 3 and 4%. And I just looked at it of like, I can absorb the fluctuations. And if I'm, borrowing at 3%, investing and, hoping, I don't know, 8 to 12% return, that's a spread that provides leverage to my returns beneficial.
Yeah.
The other thing is I just hated holding cash. I looked at cash of, for most of my upbringing, it was Fed funds were zero. You got nothing in a checking or savings account. And this is at a time where like the Federal Reserve says our target inflation rate is 2%. So like we are trying to decrease your cash buying power by 2% every year. So I looked at it as like, anytime I held cash, I'm just owning an asset that's going down 2% every year. And so I tried to maintain $0 in cash. And it was I would use my portfolio as the buffer of, if I needed to do a big purchase, a couch, car, whatever it may be, I would just like take from the portfolio on margin, and then I would have dividends pay it back to, maintain the balance. And it was really, I looked at it as, on a credit card, I could get free credit for 30 days. And then if I went over that, they would charge me 26%. Like it's a very silly structure where that is not my risk profile. That's not my credit profile. Like I would never take credit card debt at 26%.
Yeah.
But there is something interesting of taking debt at 4%, at 7%. Like, it is every single person out there has a balance sheet. They have their assets on one side, they have their liabilities on another, they have their equity, which is the negation of the two. And it's any corporate finance, like intelligent companies spend a fortune optimizing both sides of that balance sheet. And so, it's how do we maximize the return on our investments? And then how do we strategically use debt to finance various things, to have a levered return, whatever it may be. And I just looked at that, I was sort of like studying finance in the corporate realm, and it's the smartest people out there use debt very strategically, like to bring that into my life and do the same. And it's especially margin is an interesting concept where it's, I don't know, I probably shouldn't denigrate the other brokerages, but they charge like 13, 14, 15%. It's absolutely wild, the rates that they charge. And it should be the lowest cost out there because it is fully collateralized against a liquid portfolio that is worth second by second basis. And so even if you look at it versus a home have low rates because, you typically know the value of the home, but like you can't pick up and move the home. You don't know what it's worth on Tuesday versus Thursday. If you do want to foreclose on it, like that's not a fun process. You're kicking someone out of their house versus a stock portfolio. Like I know, I could look up what your portfolio is worth now and 5 seconds from now and 10 seconds from now. Like I know what it's worth. And so sort of taking the position of like a finance firm should use that and say, let's offer this as the lowest cost, most flexible way to borrow money, and then add other ways to borrow money over time. And so, I guess your question was simple of whose idea was it? It was, I think we always wanted to be a comprehensive solution. I always wanted to have both investment management, borrow management, cash flow management, you name it. And it was sort of pairing what I had already done, but using products that are just not articulated in that fashion. Like, every other brokerage says use margin to like trade options. And I think like that's just a silly,
it's huge.
A silly use case for it. This is a little bit more of a long-term prudent use case of when you need a dollar is just a dollar, figure out how to get it at the lowest cost and most flexible terms. Using whatever is your liquid investment portfolio is a fantastic mechanism to do that at least should be available to you, whether you decide to use it or not, up to you and your risk tolerance and how you want to manage your money. But I think every single person should at least have that as an outlet in their life.
Yeah, I've done extensive trading on Interactive Brokers and all this, and they're just very complicated. It's very, very difficult, And when we started the Perfect Portfolio, I tried Robinhood, I tried Interactive Brokers, I tried M1, and honestly, M1 just made it amazing. And you are right. Why would a large broker charge 14% when they have no risk on the loan? It doesn't make any sense. But again, you guys are the disruptor or the innovator that's going to force that to hopefully improve for all investors. But for those who don't know that, when you take a margin loan, it is very disruptive. You get a low interest rate. There's no application. There's no credit check. they don't report to your credit, and there's no required payments on the loan. So just, I'm writing these things down in the book, and I'm like, this is it. It just, when you actually conceptualize it, and you come from a traditional financial industry, it is a game changer. So I absolutely love the borrow button.
For 100%. And I'll have to disclaim this of not providing tax advice and,
Oh
consult your
yeah.
tax advisor and the like, but it's also tax advantaged form of borrowing as well, that
Yep.
the interest that you pay on it is considered investment interest, and you can deduct that against investment income. And so,
Yep.
it allows you to offset where even the full rate, you get sort of this tax break on some of the sort of like delta associated with that. And so,
Yep.
again, I strongly believe every single person should at least have this available to them. There are people where if they don't understand it, they don't like the risk, they don't want to use it, they don't like whatever, or they have a very low risk tolerance for whatever reason, can't put a universal statement out there that everyone should use it. But I think it's to your detriment if it's not at least available. That
Right.
and that's also another thing. Like, it doesn't cost you a penny to have it available to you on the M1 platform. You don't have to pay a fee to get access to it. It's just there. It's just an opportunistic bucket of money that you can pull from whenever, and we try to make it as easy to do as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. I again, I mean, there's M1 Borrow, my favorite, and then just the dynamic rebalancing was a game changer. I mean, it's just, I see other people try and do it on other platforms. Like, you guys do it. You guys made it literally brainless. I think you guys really, we own the phrase automate your income in the United States, and you guys are it. I mean, you guys are, there's no competition that I've seen in the industry. Have you seen any attempted innovation at other companies just because of the disruption of M1 Finance? Are you seeing that, or
Yeah, no, we've so both yes and no. I think there are some core concepts of take commission-free trading.
right?
Well, maybe I'll even take a back step. It's incredibly frustrating when people talk about like, oh, these big financial institutions have your best interest in mind, and they only change to the benefit of the customer when they get
They're
competitive
forced.
pressure to do so. And so,
Exactly. Yep.
it is something that when I grew up, I think the first time trading was $20, and this is, not inflation adjusted, so $20 was worth more then. And so,
Yep.
very expensive anytime you just clicked an electronic button to go place a trade, then knocked down to 10, then knocked down to 5. None of these companies would have gone to zero had it not been for companies like Robinhood or
Right.
M1. And so, these companies, and even when they made the change, one person made it, and within 2 hours, every person had made it. And so you
Yep.
knew that they had a playbook in the
Yeah.
background of, it's only a matter of time. We can only, charge unnecessarily high fees for a period of time. Sometime it's
Right.
going to get competed away. We're going to extend it for the length of time. And I actually don't think that there's enough frustration or anger of, why did you charge me for the last 10 years when you didn't have to? And,
Right.
all the things that came with that. Same thing with margin. Like we do have internal costs, and it's dictated by short-term rates. And so we
Yep.
price it typically at Fed funds +2,
Yep.
which I think is our, like, hey, that's a reasonable spread given all that we've built and cost of funding and the like. But that makes it 7.25%. I don't see
Yeah.
how the big brokerage firms charge 13, 14%.
Uh,
So, I think there has been a cost pressure. There has been a UI pressure of, when these apps came on for the first time, man, consumer apps outside of finance were fantastic, and the ones inside of finance were like, oh, these feel like they were created in 1984. Like, these are just not
yeah.
the best out there. And then I would say on the functionality, we've had Fidelity and Schwab have come out with, I think what Schwab calls it like stock slices, and then
Okay.
Fidelity calls it something, but and
Yeah.
there are variations, and you can look, we know that they take some inspiration from M1. I would say that, like, I don't think that they've achieved the seamless intuitiveness that we have, and
Right.
the, sort of comprehensiveness of the platform. And so, for people where M1 is a terrible trading platform. So if you want to trade, like,
Yes.
there are infinitely better tools out there.
Yep.
And truthfully, if you have no idea what to do and you just want to hand it off to an advisor, we don't provide advice, and so there are maybe better tools for you for that. But I would say if you are a long-term investor and you're thinking more about managing a portfolio rather than stock trading, I do think M1 is sort of in its class of its own of it's just purpose built for automated portfolio management at the lowest cost and easiest way to do it. So that's really where we try to bucket ourselves and be unique and differentiated.
Yeah, for sure. I remember seeing Betterment and it had that dynamic rebalancing. I thought that is genius, right? And then of course Robinhood came, disrupted, no fees. And then you guys kind of did both of those things, and then you added the borrow button. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So, anyways, but no, the competition is good. We like competition. It makes everybody compete, and I'm sure M1 wants to compete, and of course, you guys are some pretty tough competition in the marketplace. So, anyways, what's your favorite feature you've developed in M1? Like, what's your personal favorite feature? Anything? Is it probably the borrow button?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. Like we have our four main verticals of earn,
Yeah,
invest, spend, borrow.
yeah,
I joke that I like think of them as my children, and so like do I have a favorite? Maybe like can I say it out loud? I don't know.
right.
It's
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to make anyone at the company feel like they're not working on my favorite aspects. The one thing that I would say is there was a the pie started it all and the dynamic rebalancing. So there's some like penchant for that. There was the first time we had a card and bought something in real life, there was an aspect of I went 5 years where everything was in the cloud. The numbers were showing a lot of money, but like you didn't see a
yeah,
single thing. And then the second that it like actually translated to the real world of swipe the card and like had a physical good, I was like, okay,
yeah.
that was a I don't know, that was a fun um just like M1 exists in the world and it actually does things rather than just move bits in a database. And so I would say that was like a fun moment. And
Yeah.
but I truth like you know with the exception of like a Venmo or PayPal, like all of my money is on M1, so I use it extensively. It handles all of my finances and truthfully
Yep.
do love every aspect of the platform.
Yeah, I talk about building a bank in two of my books is build a tax-free family bank. And you guys are the closest thing to the most innovative, coolest bank ever developed. So I just love it. So how is I mean M1 again, it's changed my life. It's changed hundreds of our students' lives, just helping us simplify the buy, borrow, die strategy and buying and borrowing, which avoids taxes. So how has M1 changed your life? Has it changed how do you see it changing friends, families' lives? Any comments on that?
Yeah, like I've been at it close to a decade now, and
Yeah.
so
Okay.
it's funny. I've like changed my life, or it is my life. It's
Okay. Yeah, for
it,
sure.
it's been probably like 6.5 days a week for 8 years of working on this, and the fantastic thing, I absolutely love what I do. That
Yeah.
I was a personal finance geek, and I get to work on creating the tool that both I want and I think would benefit other people. And I remember watching a like Bill Gates interview where he was talking about he was very good at math and he could be a mathematician or help people with the things, or he could create Excel and empower however many hundreds of millions of people use Excel. And that was the more engaging thing of like creating the tool or the platform to help other people. And I view that the same way at M1. Like I contemplated sort of going down the investor path and trying to make money, but ultimately it would have been manage money for either wealthy individuals, wealthy endowments,
Right.
people that have a whole lot of options, or try to create the tool that I think on the margin just makes your financial like health or wellness in a better position. And
Right.
I have no disillusions that I'm not saving babies or curing cancer, so I'm not trying to claim that, but finances are just so core to people's life, and it is an aspect of with an additional wealth, like it decreases life stress. It gives you more options. It gives you more flexibility. It allows you to pursue what is interested in you. And so, I don't think it's the goal in and of itself, but I think everybody's life is better if they have more optionality, and wealth just provides more optionality. And so, that I get a ton of satisfaction and engagement for what I show up and work on every day. I like being able to tinker in a whole bunch of different domains. M1's done well, so that has been beneficial, just individually. But truthfully, it's more of the impact of there's a lot of people that work here that derive value from working on it. There's a lot of our customers that derive value from just making their financial picture better. Is like, it's really exciting to get up and work on something like that every day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you seem very purpose driven. That's the way I am. I couldn't spend another minute working in the traditional financial industry just seeing no innovation, no disrupting. Just go build your book of business. I just couldn't do it. So, and the fact that I would argue with you, you are saving babies and saving people's lives. I took one of our students. They had $22,000 of credit card debt at 24% interest. They had a brokerage account at another broker. We transferred it into M1. We pressed the borrow button, eliminated 25% interest credit card debt the other day. So that was life changing. That is, you're making a difference. So, and I just noticed something. It's like you guys are M1 Finance, we're P2 Wealth. We're kind of like, I don't know if we're like brother and sister or whatever.
There we
But
go. Yeah,
throwing that out there,
numbers.
right?
I love it.
So, but anyways, we again love M1 Finance. You guys are the most disruptive and innovative company I've ever seen for a very long time in finances, and I love innovation and disruptive. So thank you for creating it. Thank you for helping us simplify the buying and borrowing process. I've never put a financial name of a company into book, but as I'm writing my fourth book right now, and it's a book about paying no taxes and all the creative strategies, M1 is going to make it into the book, and I've never done that before. So that's how much I love M1. Everybody here,
I very much appreciate it. We love our users, and I appreciate you helping spread the word. So
awesome goes. So anyways, guys, if again, this is not financial advice, Brian's not giving tax advice. What we just follow our passions and educate others. But be sure to follow this channel, and I'm going to spend the next few months just working and then writing my fourth book. So guys, we will let you guys know when we release the book. And it's going to be, I think it'll be my best book ever. And it's going to talk about the strategies that we use in the perfect portfolio. And we hope you guys to see you guys again on the channel here soon. All right, guys. Brian, thanks again for being on the channel with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you. And it was a pleasure to talk to you.
All right. Bye for now.